Okay, so welcome to the first therapeutic, bibliotherapeutic book club of the year. And tonight we're going to be discussing, just as Einstein did, as Gramsci did, not the particular book we're going to be discussing, but they all had book discussions all the time, right back to Aristotle's time. That's how they learned, was through books. So tonight we're going to be discussing a book by Delia Owens, and the title is Where the Crawdads Sing. So second time that we've done this, and it was so loved the first time, I thought let's actually go for it this year. So anybody can start. Hey Mel, how are you? Hey. So has everybody read or watched the movie? I know some people prefer to watch and listen rather than read, but has everybody done that?
Yes,
Yep.
I've
Yeah,
done, we've
Mel,
done
I
both.
know that you did. And the happy iPad actually belongs to Tanya, but she's feeding animals at the moment. Uh,
Yes, sorry.
yeah, no, Tanya, that's all right. I know that you read it last time, but
Yeah.
let's start with, well, first I'll tell you what the 4 stages of bibliotherapy is. Can anybody tell me what bibliotherapy is? Okay, I know that some of you know, but I will say it just in case you're shy. Bibliotherapy is the use of the written word to help solve a problem, and it's usually a personal and emotional problem. It's been used, it came out of libraries actually, and it's been used with children for a long time, but more commonly nowadays it's used for either mental health issues or for life crises. It's one of the focused psychological strategies for anybody who happens to be either a
I didn't know it
yes,
was one of those.
yes.
Okay.
So if you're a accredited and credentialed mental health social worker or a psychologist or a psych nurse, you can be claiming bibliotherapy under care plans, under Medicare. So bibliotherapy is actually a passive form of psychoeducation. Psychoeducation is said to be active because it's the therapist or the person who is in charge of the session. They're the one who's doing all the work. But bibliotherapy is the other way around. It's the reader who does the work because it's about the reader. So in our circles, we happen to call it passive. But in my mind, it's the other way around because it's the client that's doing the work. It's an active
Mm.
process. So there's 4 stages of bibliotherapy. The first stage is identification, where either the individual or their therapist identifies what the particular need is. And maybe it's to help somebody affiliate with a particular character, to find out how the character identifies their goals and works out their problems. The next stage is catharsis, where the reader experiences the character's emotions, struggles, and hopes within a safe and removed position. The third part, of course, is insight, where the reader gains a new perspective because of how the characters handled things in the book, and they begin to see their own issues and solutions through a different mindset. And then the final stage is universalization, where the reader realizes that whatever the situation is in their life, they're not alone, that there's other people who have gone through this, even if it's fictional characters. But they really look at how that person operated in the world. So there's a lot of learning and healing to be done through books. And you all know that I love bibliotherapy and psychoeducation. It's also part of my PhD with Brene Brown. So this is just so easy and a pleasure for me to do. And I'm so glad to have my crew on for the first one of 2025. So now I want to know from all of you, who was your favorite character? And you'll know why after I've gone through those 4 steps now. You'll know why I'm asking that. Who's your favorite character in the book? Anybody can jump in.
Is there any debate?
Who did you like, Cardine?
Oh, the lead character, of course,
Yeah. Yep. The girl?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kaya.
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 Yes.
Yes, Kaya.
Yeah.
Catherine Danielle Clark.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you
She
like
was my
about her?
hero.
Oh, you liked her too? Yeah.
Loved her.
Yeah. How about Mel? Who was your favorite character?
Yeah, I relate to that girl too.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Hey, how about you, Tanya? Are you able to have a favorite?
Yeah, her. I like the main character as well.
Kaya. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So now, what was it that you all liked about her?
Her resilience.
Oh, her resilience. Who said that then? Was that Tanya?
Yeah,
Yeah. Her resilience was
Jumped in.
just amazing, wasn't it? Like
yeah.
right from the word go.
Mm.
Yeah. How about you others? What did you like about her?
I liked that, but I also liked her creativity and intellect, her creativity to pull off a murder and kind of get away with it. You've got to admire, really.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I
Yep.
got to admire. Yeah.
So you're convinced that she did the murder?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what made you convinced that she did? What
Well,
was it?
there's the I didn't get to review the end, but the husband or partner, whatever he is, he finds that box with all those bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you worked out how she did it?
No, I don't remember. I missed the end, so
Yeah. The clues were through the book. They weren't at the end. Yeah. Yeah. It was very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Cardine. Others? Why was she your favorite character?
I haven't finished the very last of the book, but I've just watched the movie. And I didn't want her to have done it. So Don and I were discussing about, had she really done it or not? But we both felt very justified that she should have done it.
Yeah. Yeah. There were mitigating circumstances.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But one of the things that I loved about her so much was that she had such an ability to absorb what was around her and gain something from that. That she would be, she would be somewhere and she would be part of it.
Yeah, it was almost like there was a symbiotic relationship.
Where
she
but
was
more than that, because it was spiritual.
Yes, yeah. And that's interesting, Johnny, because spirituality or developing spirituality after trauma is one of the hallmarks of post-traumatic growth. And to me, this book was about post-traumatic growth. Yeah, just amazing. Yeah. Mel, what was it for you?
So I like the adaptability she had.
Oh,
So she'd no meal. She went and created that little business, and so she adapted to what she was going through. The one thing she said as well was adapting to become invisible. So she didn't get beaten or anything. She learned to become invisible. So she adapted to the environment which she was in.
Yeah.
Even at the beginning when she was going under the water, she knew where to go to start, like she was adapting to what was happening.
Yeah. And she was quite vocal about saying that she learned by observing all of the animals both in the marsh and the swamp. Like even right down to the fireflies. And that's one of the hints about how she got away with the murder. With the with the fireflies that give different signals to the males. And then they have different lights going off and they attract them and then they eat them. So that adaptability.
She liked the praying mantis.
Yes, yeah.
I've always thought that was pretty cool about praying mantis.
Yes. But that invisibility, that made me think, or I was reflecting on the cycle of violence as I was reading that, and how often it is the women and the children who have to make themselves invisible to survive. Yeah. So for me, this book was just full of domestic violence. Yeah. But thanks, Mel. Tanya, how about you? What did you like about Kaya the best?
I liked her resilience. I liked how she, you know, her upbringing, how she adapted to her environment. But which in a sense, and I think we discussed it last time, Megan, her following nature and becoming part of like the ecosystem essentially. And originally when I found out she did the murder, I was like, this has kind of ruined the book a little bit for me. But when you think about it, she learnt from her environment.
Yeah,
he was
she
a predator.
did. Yeah. And there is and I don't remember which chapter it is, but there is a bit about there is no good or evil in nature. It is just survival. And that's where she was talking about the fireflies again, where one attracted another one and ate it to survive. And it wasn't an act of evil. So Tanya, yeah, I was reflecting on that with the murder, that she had to do that to try and survive. Oh, look, Tanya's so clever. She got 2 going here.
Oh, have I got 2? I got kicked off. I got kicked off and I jumped back on.
She was living the laws of nature.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Rather than man-made laws, she was living the laws of nature, which is, you know, how she lived her life.
Yeah. So just going back to Mel's point too, now you're right, Tanya, you're only on 1. So going back to what Mel said about starting the business, she started that at, hello, Paulie.
Oh, hello.
Oh, boy.
What a gorgeous.
Oh, Paulie, it's so good to see you.
Oh, what a lovely pussycat.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
he's very lovely. Yeah, and it's not just because his name's Paulie.
He's adorable.
So starting that business at 7 to survive, like amazing. How did a little girl who had been abandoned by everybody, how did she even think of that? Now, I don't know about any of you. Well, I do know that Jani found it sad, but I've read this book so many times now, but this reading, when I was reading it really deeply for the subtext, I was so sad. Like it really affected me. It made me very sad. Did that happen to anybody else? Yeah, Johnny, yeah.
What, reading the whole book?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I could relate to a lot of it, you see. So instead of the chicken, I had a dog.
Yeah.
Like, I had a dog.
Yeah.
But it didn't actually make me sad. I just thought, okay, I suppose it might be like you, the highlights that things do happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was quite interesting. And I watched it with 2 of the girls from uni, and they were like near to tears and everything, but I weren't. So it was quite interesting. So maybe that, I don't know, but I didn't feel sad.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to sit with what I felt at the time, see if I can remember.
Yeah. So not everybody knows Mel's background, but she's just given you a hint, just as there's hints all the way through the book, by saying it wasn't a chicken for her, it was a dog.
Yeah.
So there's a fair amount in the book where Kaya, like she turns her focus to the chickens, particularly when her brother Jody leaves. So she turns to focus on the chickens, which to me I read as dissociation. Like it was just domestic violence all the way through. Now, I know I also spoke to Jade today, and Jade said that she wasn't keen to read it because she had heard from so many people that it was a sad story. So this is a perfect time for you to come in, Jade. I don't know if you can talk or not. Yep, she's okay. Hello.
Hi, Jade.
Hi, Jade.
Wait, sorry, I'm late. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Yeah, there's no rules here. This is not a classroom, so it's okay. We are just talking about the sadness. Like I found it very sad. Mel didn't find it so sad, but Mel's going to reflect on what was going on for her when she read it and watched the movie. Tanya, did you find it sad?
No. Don't get me wrong, I cry in everything. So I probably did. I don't remember having tears, but because it's been a while since I read it. But I don't remember the sadness didn't resonate with me. So I think this because it ended where she got, she had a beautiful life after in the end. Do you know what I mean? Like I think, yeah. I thought she turned a very tragic life into a very beautiful life.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I don't, when I think of that book, I don't think of sadness because she turned, if it had ended where she went to jail, blah, blah, like that, I would have been gutted. But because it ended on a beautiful way, except for the murder, to me, I found it was a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I wasn't sad, but sadness doesn't resonate with me when I think about this book.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Again, this is about post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've picked up on lots of those growth things and chosen to concentrate on them. Whereas for me, I was thinking of all the kids that I dealt with throughout my career as a child therapist. And, the kids having to make themselves invisible to survive. Yeah. And sitting with women who actually were plotting murders. None of them carried through on them that I'm aware of. But it was part of their healing process to get rid of the perpetrators. Yeah. But what stopped them was we have to look after our children. So that was a very deep sadness for me. So Jade, did you get through enough of it to decide whether or not it's sad or no?
No, I haven't started book or movie. But I was interested to hear everyone's thoughts so that I can decide if I want to commit myself to this emotional turmoil or not.
Yeah.
I didn't find it sad. I don't find it sad. It's confronting at times. But I just have a lot of admiration for the main character.
Yeah.
And this is because I don't have a social work background. I'm looking at it from a totally different side. But I saw her isolating from hiding from people, doing what she did as defiance, not being trying to come invisible. Like she needed to eat. She didn't want to go to school because they treated her badly. I saw it as defiance.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting too, because resistance is useful. So she was resisting being pulled into all of that stuff, and she wanted to survive on her by herself. But there was one sentence that almost brought me unstuck, and it's to do with this, Tanya. It was, she laid down in the marsh, and the marsh became her mother. But she was so seeking. She was so seeking human contact and trying to work out, as she did her entire life, why was she abandoned by everyone? Yeah. And she was studying the animals of the marsh and the swamp to try and work out who has abandoned who and why. But how about when she went to save the turkey? Oh, that was sad too. When she walked into a clearing and the turkeys were all attacking another turkey, and she couldn't save it. It died. But it was about the turkeys will kill, or the bird family
will kill something.
Yeah, they'll kill one of their own that might be sick or injured, because it's better to sacrifice that one than an eagle coming in and mistakenly getting one of the healthy ones. So I saw that as a metaphor for what was going on as well. Like she sacrificed herself by just always being invisible. She tried to protect her mother early in the piece. Yeah. But there's so many little things in this book. Can anybody remember the name of Tate's father's boat?
The cherry.
Well done. Yeah.
Cherry. I can't remember. It was cherry though. Cherry.
Yeah. So what's significant about the cherry? Do you know?
Well, it was his wife's. Oh, I can't remember. No, it was something about his wife. It was her. It was her.
Say the word that was on your tongue,
Really,
Emma,
like?
because I think it was
Cherry
right.
pie.
It was cherry pie. Yeah.
Because it was her cherry pie. She made cherry pie.
Well, it was actually her favorite color, and she liked cherries.
Oh, her favorite color was cherry.
Yes. Yeah.
Cherry.
So she chose the color of the boat, and he had never, ever painted it. So for Kaya, it was a real shock when she eventually got together with Tate, who he didn't have a mother because the mother and the sister had been killed, but she had empathy for that, very deep empathy. And then she couldn't get her head around how supportive Tate's dad was. This was so new to her to have a family where people had died, but how come your dad didn't abandon you? How come your dad treats you really well? When her dad had beaten everybody in the family.
I found that actually quite heartbreaking, that part there, the realization that, the difference between her life and his life.
Yes, yeah.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah, going back to the cherry pie, I thought, and I might be wrong, but I thought the subtext of some of those Americanisms, like cherry pie, it's very American. So I thought it was perhaps a cultural comment on trying to keep old traditions going, and how
pie has got a lot of meaning.
What
pie?
Yeah. So what's the meaning of pie? Is it because I know when I was in the States, pie is very important.
Nurture, love, hospitality. Pie is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
When there's anything important, like we might have cake, they would have pie.
Yeah. Okay.
Pie has this really big meaning. It's like home. You know, if you make pie, that's because you're looking after your family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what she saw.
Good mothers make pie.
Yeah.
I suppose it's that comfort food as well, Jenny. Hey, that
Absolutely.
comfort food.
But there's lots of types of pie.
Yeah.
But in the South, it's all about the pie.
Yeah. Yeah. I kept looking for crocodiles and alligators.
Not pie.
Yeah.
A pie.
I was looking for alligators, but then I had to go, hang on.
No,
not in that part of the States.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Yeah, because that part would be more likely to have crocodiles than alligators.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's brackish water and alligators are in fresh water.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think they'd have crocodiles in Carolina, but that's like I'm not.
Well, I don't know how long ago they had a lot of crocodiles kind of like become extinct because people killed them. Because she had crocodile skin.
She had alligator shoes.
Alligator
she
shoes.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she had alligator shoes.
That was mentioned.
So a lot of the alligators and the crocodiles in that part of the world got killed.
Yeah, okay.
Because in Florida you get alligators in the north, but you get crocodiles in the south.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Was that her shoes or the mother's shoes? Because weren't the mother's shoes fake alligator?
Yeah, they were fake alligator, but the fact of the alligator, like that alligator leather was revered.
I think the point of the fake alligator was to show how poor they were. Like they weren't just swamp people or marsh people. They were really extra poor. Yeah. But what was Kaya's dad's job previously before they all went to live in the swamp?
Military, I think.
Yeah. So post-traumatic stress disorder, alcoholism, so comorbid states. And I did have some empathy for him, but it quickly ran out.
But see, he had been what would be called a coward, because when the sergeant was injured, or the captain, was injured, he was supposed to go with the other people to go and rescue him. And so the other soldiers went to rescue him, but he got hit, and that's how he had the leg injury. So he got hit, but he was still in the bunker when he got hit. He hadn't got up and gone. He'd stayed, and that's how he got injured. But they assumed that he'd been hit rescuing the other person.
Okay. So I wonder
and that
if
was his shame.
Yeah. I wonder if that's why when he told Kaya that he was going away for a few days. Hey, Xander. He was going away for a few days to do some army business. And it was the first time that he had ever explained anything to Kaya, because he never used to say what was happening. And she was loving that time that they had together, because he'd also stopped drinking. He'd started to drink iced tea with her, taking her fishing. And then the letter arrived, and it changed everything for both of them. Yeah. How very sad, where she was scraping up the ashes. He burnt the letter. And in the movie, it actually shows him burning her clothes and bits of furniture and everything as well. Yeah. So
painting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And her paintings. Who was it? Cardine, you said creativity, didn't you? Somebody said the creativity. Yeah. So the mother was so creative and happy. And in terms of the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, young Kaya had sufficient positive memories of her mother and sisters to reflect on. Yeah, but she said, I'm beginning to forget the color of their hair or the sound of their voice. And yeah. So, Jade, this kid is abandoned at age 7 by everybody for a number of reasons, which I won't go into. You can read the book. But she lives alone. She survives in an old shack in the middle of the swamps. She has to teach herself how to ride the boat, or I don't know what the correct terminology is there. Maneuver the little boats. She has to dig mussels and sell. But speaking of that, going into Jumpin' and Mabel to sell the stuff, any comments about racism?
Well, I mean, it was at the time when that was starting to turn, because that's why the magistrate let Jumpin' and Mabel be in the courtroom.
And did you pick up on the different use of Jumpin's name? They referred to him as James rather than Jumpin', which I thought was interesting. Yeah, because Jumpin' is very clearly a Negro name. But in this formal court, they called him James. Yeah. I was affronted by the racism, but I always am. Yeah. Yeah. And the way Jumpin' was treated by the town children.
That was one of the times I cried in the book. When they were throwing stones at Jumpin', and he wasn't, and she couldn't understand why he wasn't defending himself, because at that stage she didn't understand that, and that was one of the things that linked her with Jumpin', was that she got treated like less than. She got treated like nothing. And that's what happened to all the people from Coloured Town.
Yeah. But right down to roads in and out. Why would you put a road into a place where, all of those black people live? Yeah. Just, it was amazing. Yeah.
But the only person in the whole town who provided her with some basic necessities of her life were the people who were the African American people.
Yeah.
Nobody else did anything to look after her. Even the truancy people, I found that incredulous, The truancy people knew that she was there, and they knew that she was there by herself, and they didn't come with anything for her. They only came to take her away from her safe space. And I just thought that showed absolutely no insight. And when she got to the school and nobody buddied up to help her, nobody showed her how the school worked or what she had to do.
Not even the teachers.
They just
Well,
threw her in the middle of
especially,
it.
I mean, yeah, they just chucked her in. I was crying about that. I thought that was terrible. Sorry. There was so many things. I cried a lot.
I think they just expected her to fail, so they just really set her up to fail.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, as society often does, like still today, the way we run our education system is not suitable for neurodiversity, for example.
Or a whole lot of other people.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yep. And
It's not only neurodiverse people, it's anyone. It's the same. You know, it's like the turkey.
Yes, yeah. That's a very good analogy there with the turkeys. Like, let's kill off the weak ones because we don't want them in our classroom or whatever.
And that came out in the court thing. You know, that came out in the court, you know, that the whole town had been down on her and she didn't stand a chance. And so to get a jury to not convict her was a miracle.
Yeah, but there was no evidence.
Well, no, because she's smarter than everybody else.
Yeah, and I love that.
And that was one of the hints about the murder. Early in the book, she's learnt to cover up her tracks. When her
we see that in the movie I saw that in the movie that she's doing this, and I thought, oh no.
Because of the domestic violence, they had learnt not only to make themselves invisible, but to take away any evidence of even being there. So she's covering her tracks all the time. And she talks, or the narrator talks a lot about the mud, how the mud can hold the evidence, but the mud can also take the evidence away. And where he fell from the tower, it was into the swamp, not the marsh. So the swamp has different animals to the marsh. Yeah. Tanya, you wanted to say something?
No, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. So, you know, the author, oh, sorry, Mel. Yeah.
No. I've been sitting with like the word, the feeling. So for me, I was intrigued.
Yeah.
I was intrigued because I think I took that emotion away and looking at from like a social work perspective on what was happening and how would that relate to today and what would there be anything different. So I think because I went in looking at, I think because you said about it and I went in looking at it, so I think that detached that emotion and I was looking at it from an intrigued lens on the comparativeness of what happened then to today. Has anything changed? Like you said, and everything else we'd said, the resilience, the adaptability, what I was taking out from it rather than just watching for watching's sake. And I think that was the difference. I was going in for that purpose.
Yeah. So as the newest social worker in the group then, Mel, you've got the closest to the theories, I guess. Which theory?
Nothing changed.
Which theories has come through the strongest for you?
I think for me, I mean, there's the attachment theory.
Yeah.
There's the relational.
Yeah.
I think there's the crisis as well.
Yeah.
Because at times you're in crisis, no food, etc. Oh my goodness. Looking at the systems, because they're looking at society, looking at that. They were going back as well, and they went back. She was looking back at her mum leaving and things like that as well.
Yep.
From being young.
And flashbacks.
flashbacks as well. So that was the timeline. So I suppose from an ecological, from the environment, so ecological systems, looking at,
Yeah.
So
Look, I'm biased. I think everybody should
feminist.
read this book. Oh yeah, very definitely
Yeah.
feminist stuff coming through as well.
Yeah.
Even though
and empowerment.
Empowerment. Yeah.
Strengths-based.
Sorry?
Strengths-based.
Yeah, strengths-based, yes.
Strengths-based,
Yep. Oh, look, I think everybody should read this book, but because it's a perfect book for bibliotherapy, going through those 4 things, the identification, the catharsis, the insight, and the universalization. Like, you can really get into it with clients. But if you were my clients, I would be asking all of you, how does this fit into your life now? Right? So that's something, if you are doing bibliotherapy ever with anybody, and those who are not social workers, you can do it as well. But how does this fit into your life? So you're looking for what resonates with people. Right. So a couple of us, Mel started it saying Mel said she didn't have a chook, she had a dog. Right. So I immediately know what that is. Right. And for me, it's the attachment stuff and the abandonment. Like, whoa, that's really in your face. But for the rest of you, except for Jade, who hasn't finished reading it, so we can't, or even started reading it, so we can't ask her. But Jani, Cardine, and Tanya, or Happy, we'll call you Happy. How did this book fit into your life? What resonated with you because of life stuff?
Oh, for me, it fits in with a lot of things, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that. I don't know how I'm still alive, and how did she survive that childhood?
Yeah.
I don't know how I survived.
Yeah.
And, looking at all the family dynamics, the attachment, the abandonment stuff. And I guess at the moment it's a bigger time of reflection since my mum passed away recently, and having extra stuff come up, since then, I can really relate to the story in so many ways. And one of the reasons why I love the fact that she killed him, like, I can totally own that.
For me, it would have missed opportunity, Kadeen.
Pardon?
That's how I relate. I missed my opportunity. If I'd have only known, I could have lived in a swamp with it.
And we can look at that she killed him from the perspective of that she killed him, but death comes in many forms in our life. For me, I cut off ties to my relations, and that in itself is a big death. And it's death that people try and guilt trip you for, and it's not necessarily the social expectation. There's a social expectation that you have to love your relatives no matter what they do. Well, that's crap. And I think it's good for us to see death as a metaphor, that death can happen in many layers throughout our life, and that she was able to protect herself, identify that the only way she would be safe would be for him to be dead. Well, sometimes that's reality. Sometimes it's the only time you're safe is if somebody is dead, or the only time you're safe is if you have absolutely zero contact.
Yep, absolutely.
Whatever that is, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Kadeen. Jani, how about you? How did it fit into your life?
There's a lot of things I could say, but I'm just trying to think of a single sentence. I escaped into nature too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And then you also bring the American understanding, as the cultural understanding, like explaining what pie means, because you've got that experience, whereas we haven't. Jani's husband is American, just so everybody knows, and they spend a lot of time. Yeah, they spend a lot of time over there. Yeah. Tanya?
Okay, it's been a while. I think if I had read the book, I would have had a different take a little bit. But I kind of can relate to her self-worth. Like when she started dating that guy, and you could see he was a slime, and the I remember being younger and not having confidence and needing that validation from that male. Which, looking back now, I wish I had this brain in my 18-year-old self, because I would have kicked a lot of nuts. Do you know, like just that self-worth, having people against you and being validated by someone who was a creep, that kind of thing related to, yeah. And
so you're
and I
talking
actually think
about
that's,
Chase.
I actually think, yes, Chase.
Yeah.
And I'm actually thinking that that's actually not uncommon for women in general.
Yeah.
Like young women in general. But I also had issues with Tate abandoning her, and he did for a while there as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. The book actually does a much better job at explaining why he abandoned and what happened when he came back after about, I don't know, maybe it was a month after he was supposed to be there for July 4 for the fireworks. And he observed her like she observed everybody else. So for me, that was interesting because he learnt from her. And then sorry?
Didn't he abandon her when he went to uni, though? He kind of separate that was that, I meant that time that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he absolutely did. Yeah.
But he promised not to. He promised her he would come back.
Yeah.
And 15 days after that weekend was when he came back and observed her.
Yes. Okay. So 2 weeks afterwards.
And I thought that was the most dreadful thing.
Yeah.
That loss of trust.
I think he also bashed up on himself, because there is a line where he reflects on how easy I gave in when I'm offered this opportunity by the head of the lab to, go for a weekend with him to, count mosquito legs or wings or whatever it was. But that was interesting to see that he had learnt from her by her observations. Yeah. And you realize that the author of this is actually a zoologist. So her detail about the animal life, about the feathers. It was, when I first read it, I thought, how the hell had she put this together? Because there will be people reading this that will go, that doesn't belong to a snow goose. That belongs to a hairy-legged chicken hawk or whatever. But she is a zoologist. And are you aware of the controversy around the murder scene?
There you go. Never knew that.
So she was never charged with murder, her and her husband. I'm talking about the author now. They're both zoologists.
I remember that,
conservationists, But when the book was first released, it was too similar to a murder that had happened in their business. So they had a business somewhere in Africa, and a poacher had been killed. So the way the murder went down was very similar to what she had written in the book. So there was huge controversy over it, and they were both pulled in for questioning. Yeah, but no charges were ever laid. Yeah, but just very interesting. So again, in some countries, this book wasn't welcomed. And you can imagine that if this went to a society where, well, maybe like America currently is, where I don't wish to be rude to the incoming president, but certainly where the Americans...
Yeah, you do.
He still has a position that the position needs to be respected. But not
he's not in it yet.
No, correct.
You don't have to respect his position because he's the incumbent. He's not there yet. Another few days.
So hegemony is about the ruling class putting their power, their beliefs, their values onto everybody else in society. And this is what my PhD is about. Like, it's that masculine hegemony that says that some women, their books shouldn't be allowed to be publicized. So you can imagine something that is being released in the States at the moment that doesn't fit Donald Trump's ethos, it's going to be banned. Yeah. Yeah, you can't talk about good American men that way, or what? And that hasn't happened. I'm just putting this in here. So you all know that Bambi, of course, was a book of resistance. So Bambi was written metaphorically as the Jews being persecuted. So it had to be written. Yeah. It's not the sweet story that everybody thinks it is. Yeah. So it was written by a Jew to tell the rest of the world about the persecution of the Jews from the Nazis. It was banned by the Nazis. It was burnt. It was pulled out of bookshops and burnt. Mary Poppins is another one. So Mary Poppins was a story of resistance. And it was Walt Disney who then fancied it up. Excuse me. He made it all lovely and light, and the author sat through the premiere crying because he had taken away the meaning of the mean nanny being horrible to the children. She wanted the middle classes to wake up to themselves and look after their own children. But Walt Disney made the nanny all lovely and happy and, brings families together. And that was not what the author wanted. So it's interesting how often books are written for a particular reason of resistance, for example, or for a therapeutic value, but they become popular and picked up by other people who put their values onto it. We learn our values through books. That's why bibliotherapy is so handy to be working with people, because the things that we read teach us not only how to operate in the world, but it teaches us values. It teaches us rules. So reading dangerously is about reading the opposite. I do not read dangerously. I cannot read Jordan Peterson. I have a couple of his books on my, I have a couple of his books here and I just cannot read them, right? But if I was reading dangerously, I would absolutely consume them so that I would know what my enemy is all about. Yeah, but I just cannot do that. I can't bear it. But some people will only read Black authors. Some people will only read American authors. It's very common for women, particularly radical feminists. They'll only read women authors. So everybody reads differently and takes different things away from it. With bibliotherapy, you remember those steps of identification, catharsis, insight, and universalization. And it's the job of the person who is recommending a book to actually match the message and the characters to the need of the person that you're giving it to. So for Jade to say that she hasn't read it because the people that have recommended it to her have also said it's very sad, and Jade doesn't want to read sad stuff. Yeah, she's got a mother who just makes her so sad, it just drives her crazy,
After hearing more about this book now and learning that she's 7, I have a 7-year-old. I couldn't do it.
That's interesting. Read it. Yeah. And that is what a lot of people will relate it back to their own life all the time. So you're saying no because I've got a 7-year-old. Yeah, can you imagine just everybody disappearing and leaving Xander in the house alone? How is he going to get food? Yeah. Yes, it's very, very confronting on a number of levels. But these sorts of things do happen. What's your view on Jumpin not helping child services when they came to the shop looking for her? Like, child services wanted to give her a lovely bed in a group home and some hot meals, but Jumpin wouldn't give anything away, wouldn't help them. Did he do the right thing or the wrong thing?
I think for her, for that particular case, it was probably the right thing, because it took her away would have taken her away, effectively locked her up in a cage. I think, you know, there would have been pros and cons, but it would have taken her away from the environment that she loved, that was her life university, really, and that's where she got her nurturance from. If she then lost that, then she would lose everything.
And the lesson in that, I think, for all of us is that if you take people out of the environment where they can thrive, you do more damage.
But step it back a bit, though. If this was in this day and age, and would you do that? Would you hire a child that age from child services who are trying to help them?
So this is part of always the ethical dilemma, trying to decide. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so if it was in far north Queensland where we've got every deadly thing that can kill you, would I do that? And would I do it with the knowledge that I have about the ACEs and child development? I probably wouldn't. Now, we also have way too many pedophiles
within the systems.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would hate to ever be in that position. As a person who might be coming in to do an assessment, I would be building rapport with that child, whereas that was never offered to her. It was, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to have hot chicken pie for at school. When you go to school, you can have hot chicken pie. And her little mind goes, oh, I have had hot chicken pie twice in my life and it's yummy. It's crusty on the outside and soft on the inside. And this child is starving. So she goes to school, she has some chicken pie and she hides it in a milk container to bring it home with her. And she bolts because everybody was mean to her. So it's like, we're going to give you one good thing, but we're going to slap you with our other hand. Yeah, very, very hard, tough decisions. But Tanya, they're the ethical and moral decisions that often people working in the child safety field have to make. Like, it's never easy. Yeah. Very, very hard.
I suppose relating to that food, it's that food scarcity as well, which you often get with children out of home care. When you don't have anything, then you save it.
Yeah.
Even with aged care, they're doing aged care because they've never had anything. So they'll eat a bit and then take a bit back to the room. So, what do they call it, Megan? Come on, it's late. A dietary problem, health-wise.
We certainly can develop food-related trauma.
Food. This is what I'm thinking. That food connection.
Yeah. When kids have done without at a very early age, it can set up a trauma response just around food and having enough food. I know in my own life, if my cupboards aren't full, even though I've worked on it, I don't feel okay.
Yeah.
Even after all the work that I've done, I can have them a bit less full these days and feel okay. But my tuna stock is almost empty, so I feel a bit anxious about that.
Yeah, and I'm an over-caterer. I figure that I probably starved to death in a previous life. Because Paul hates it when he hears me say, yeah, I'll make the cheese platter. Because he knows we're going to have no room in the fridge and we'll be eating cheese and antipasto for the next 200 years.
All I'm going to say is I'm Italian.
Yes.
I'm an over-caterer.
Yeah. I must be Italian in the background there somewhere. But Mel and Cardine, your point about the food is interesting too. If you look at other forms of conserving what you've got, including memories. So there was a couple of mentions of the boys' socks on the bed, and she kept smelling them, but they were losing the smell of the boys. Her mum's clothes, there was one dress left that had a little bit of blood that had been just about scrubbed out, but it had lost the smell of mum. So it's conserving whatever people can to try and keep them focused. And we do the same too. Like, who's keeping their Christmas cards? No, I recycle the Christmas cards and Paul gets angry at me. So Paul likes to keep the Christmas cards. Yeah. Yeah. But we do it in other ways. Like when somebody dies, they might turn their clothes into a patchwork quilt rather than thrift their clothes. You know, they cut them up and they make a patchwork quilt. Yeah, so it's common. It's a way for people to hang on to somebody that they love. But this poor kid had no choice. Like everybody was taken away from her. And she also made a vow to herself, if you remember, after Tate left to go to university, she said, I will never love another person again because love means people leave. Yeah, so very, very sad. Yeah. Okay, we have a few minutes left, but Jade, it's interesting that you have chosen not to look at it now because of your 7-year-old, but she does grow up. She does get bigger than 7, and there is a very happy ending, as happy as it can be. Did anybody work out her age when she died?
She in her 60s?
66, I think. That's what I added up. Yeah. So she was in the 60s, and I thought it rather symbolic that she died peacefully in the boat on the marsh. So again, like the marsh became her mother, or the swamp became her mother. It was like the boat was the metaphor for wrapping the arms around, and she passed away peacefully. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, so it was very interesting. But I'm putting my hand up to say I love this book, and I will be recommending this book to people.
Yeah.
Because I think it is just so rich and so deep, and there's so much subtext and layers of understanding. I was worried because I have read it a number of times. I thought, oh gosh, if I read it again, I'm actually not going to get anything out of it. I got much more out of it this time than ever before, but I found it very sad. Yeah. Okay, so how about others? Would you read it again? Would you recommend it to someone?
I think last time I watched the movie, so I think this time I might read the book and have a different take, because I'm not reading it, like you say, going in as a social worker, read it and see what you think and pluck in things out of it.
Yeah.
If I read it, because I tend to get really involved when I read a book.
Yeah.
I think go into the story more.
Has so much more detail in it.
Yeah.
So I might be able to get absorbed in the story rather than just being an observer watching the music.
Yeah. I listen on Audible. I actually do not have a physical copy, I don't think. I might have in Babinda or in someplace around Australia. But I listened on Audible and absolutely got into the story, because whoever that was that just said it, that Cardine, I think, there is so much more in the book. Like the book is absolutely, as always is, the book is great. But the poetry.
I read the book first, and it was just so beautifully written in description. When I watched the movie, I get nervous about watching a movie after. The movie was beautiful. So it actually did do the book justice.
Yeah.
But after listening to you tonight, I'm actually going to listen. I read the first one, watched the movie. I'm actually going to listen to it on Audible.
Okay.
I've got more time to do that.
It's a good listen.
That's interesting.
I thought it was really well narrated on the Audible. I thought that they got her voice really down pat.
Yeah.
The auditor did a great, not the auditor, the orator. The orator did a great job at changing her voice for the different characters. She was very, very good. Yeah.
It all comes down to the voice, doesn't it?
Well, that came out in the research too, that it's often the voice, and people listen to the sample on one of the audio books, and if the voice doesn't grab them, they won't read it. So it was fascinating. Nobody's mentioned the poetry, and I don't think anybody mentioned the poetry last time either.
That's interesting.
this time the poetry really grabbed me, and I wondered what that was about. So I think it's showing what education brings. It's an appreciation for different things. On the cherry pie, the shrimper or whatever it was called, the shrimper, is that what it was? So the dad was playing classical music. Now, that's not what I would normally associate with the fisherman. So there was some real surprises in there to offset the racism, the control, the narcissism, the patriarchy, the hegemony. And I loved that there was so much poetry all the way through. And also, did anybody pick up on the poem that was printed in the paper? A new poet had printed a beautiful poem that day in the paper, and at the end in the book, it was her. She was the poet, because Tate found a whole heap of poems in her handwriting that she had signed in the name of this poet. Yeah. So she wasn't only publishing, I think it was 5 at the end, 5 books on, the plants and the shells and the birds of the marshes, but she was also doing poetry. So it was very interesting. And bibliotherapy started with poetry. Yeah. Poems that help people feel things and understand themselves through poetry. All right, Cherub, it's time for us to end. Oh, sorry, Mel. Did you want to say?
No, I was just going to say it's funny because I'd forgotten, because when I was watching it, I thought, I used to do a lot of poetry when I was younger, and I don't anymore. So that's quite interesting. You've reminded me. So yeah, maybe.
Okay. Listen to the book then. Yep. Yeah, and pick up on the poetry and the classical music. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so next month, and I forgot to check the date, but I think it was around about maybe it was the 19th. And we're doing a poem, actually. So it's appropriate to end on poetry. So Cardine is facilitating the discussion. And Cardine, tell everyone what the poem is.
The Owl and the Pussycat.
Oh,
Cardine, that fits you really well.
And the reason we're doing it is because when Cardine explained to me why she loved that, it's her favorite. So when she explained to me, I went, oh, wow, I never got that from it. I didn't pick up on any of that. Yeah, so I thought, right.
Really?
Yeah.
What date is it again, Cerise?
I think it's the 3rd Wednesday. So is it around the 19th?
The 19th.
Okay. Hey, Malcolm.
Megan said hello.
Yeah.
I think he got a fright. You can see him.
So yeah, around the 19th, but the time will remain the same until daylight saving changes times. Right. And then I'm open to suggestions from everybody about the day and the time, because I want as many people as possible to come. And if this time and day doesn't suit people, we change it. All right. So The Owl and the Pussycat is free everywhere, all over the internet. And there are quite a few verses and stanzas. So start reading it and just try and work out what you think that Cardine is going to say about it.
Fabulous. Exciting. I'll actually be able to read this one.
All right, so Jade, you should be able to do that too. It's not sad at all. All right, good night, everybody, and thank you all for attending.
Yeah.
And lovely to see you all.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Lovely to see you too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.